This is going to be an extended lesson. I did send out a pass out. It probably arrived after you signed on. And the subject is new format. Excuse me. So tonight I'm introducing a new format, not a new lesson plan. What we're going to do is change the hour contents, because generally I talk about 40, 45 minutes. But I'm going to, the new format change is that I'm going to speak up until about 30 minutes on a lesson. So none of that, the content of the lesson and the direction there is not changing. It's just that I want to make an addition to what we're accomplishing here. For some time, we have struggled with how to include more and more of the practice side of our Tuesday night experience. And it's tended to be more lecture, talk. And then occasionally I get the sense that we need to practice this. And then I try to say, okay, let's meet off night, Wednesday night or another night. And I've done that a couple of times, but not with enough consistency that I'm believing and feeling that is necessary. So, but I've been reluctant to adding a new night. Not only am I, not anxious to create that work for myself, but then I don't think it would be possible for everybody to participate 2 nights out of the week instead of 1. So because of that, I've been working with Sherry, doing some brainstorming and also some practice. And what grew out of that conversation, it says, where 2 or more are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Well, an idea came, a concept developed out of that, because I've been there working on her class at LA City College also. And she's working on pretty much the same, going in the same direction with her class in dealing with suggestion and auto-suggestion, but she's not necessarily using the terminology that we use here, because that's school. But in our working close together, what I came up with is that I'm going to speak for about first 30 minutes or so, and then we're going to, without a break for talking, we're going to segue right into guided meditation, a guided healing meditation. And if we do this every Tuesday, then we're accomplishing something that is missing here, and that is practice. We can't just talk and not practice. And the idea also is that with this being that hopefully, as often as possible, the last thing on your mind or the last thing that you hear, you fall asleep. We need more of that. We need to take this stuff into our unconscious state of mind and let the power of God work in your mind. So before I go into the outline here, I am asking you to really keep your mind open for the goal of tonight's lesson. Now, the goal is really to try to, I use the saying, this stuff is caught, not taught. And I want you to catch something here, because we've been talking about what I'm talking about here consistently, without changing, for 3 years for some and 4 years for others, and less than a year for a few latecomers. We've been talking about the power of prayer and how to pray. And what I'm going to run through here is, you see it's titled Bibliography. And what that is a summary. This is a list of the primary teachers, spirits that have been guiding us, or philosophers and teachers that we've been practicing. And I have about a 1 page or less synopsis on each of them. There might be 4, 5, or 6 of them. And this will be a review, an overview, a summary, a summarization of where we've come from. And I want to remind you of their theses, the very essence and the core of their teaching. And I want you to see again the symmetry. I want you to see again the common thread. I want you to see again how they're all saying the same thing. And therefore, it's not by accident that they are the ones that I have been following. I think that they have come to me as much as I've come to them, because they need my help and our help to make their teaching more universalized and also practiced, you know? And so let us realize that their spirits are with us tonight. My plan here, teaching outline for tonight, is to go through this bibliography, giving you a quick review of the principles that we've already learned. We're not learning anything new tonight. I won't say anything new tonight that that we haven't discussed and we haven't talked about, and that we haven't used as a lesson at all. This is a review. This is a summarization, but it is also a preparation of where we go from here. So after each lesson going forward, we will not take a break. We will segue directly into guided meditation. But here is what I want you to be prepared for and look for when we do so. We are into the realization. That's the word, I guess, that came to my mind. That's what we're doing. We're getting into the realization aspect of this teaching. Realization, a synonym for that would be demonstration. Another one would be manifestation. Another one would be living the thing, living in the answer, experiencing it in the now, getting out of the consciousness of waiting to be healed, waiting for your demonstration, waiting for your answer. Indeed, it is already done. So that's where that's the direction. That's our new direction. What I'm going to do here is, at the end of the bibliography review here, I'm going to go into the outline that you've received, that we will follow in the guided meditation, that we will experience each night after our Tuesday night session. Hopefully, the time will allow us tonight to go through the reading of it, to review the steps. But again, when we do so, you will find there's nothing new. We've done it before. And we've had some guided meditations. It's the same outline and a lot of the same narration in it is pretty similar. But I want to remind you that the reason that I'm sending it to you is so that you can practice it, get it from sense to soul, from sense to soul. Now, and also use it at night. Use it yourself. Let's look at the bibliography. So whose writings here have you forgotten about? What about Emile Coué? Emily Coué or Emile Coué? And he wrote the material that we use on self-mastery. And remember the popular affirmation, every day in every way I am getting better and better. Well, that was the author of that was Emile Coué, the French psychologist and therapist. And what he says here in this review is autosuggestion is self-hypnosis. Hypnosis is spelled wrong. There's a spelling error there. Autosuggestion is self-hypnosis. He says the use of autosuggestion, let us now return to the point, he said, where I said that we can control and lead our imagination. We can control and lead our imagination, just as an unbroken horse can be controlled. This means the means to do this is autosuggestion, whereas we constantly give ourselves unconscious autosuggestions, all we have to do is to give ourselves conscious ones. All right. So at the end of our 30-minute talk going forward, we're going to go into the practice of this. Whereas we constantly give ourselves unconscious autosuggestions, all we have to do is to give ourselves conscious ones. If the unconscious accepts this suggestion and transforms it into autosuggestion, the thing or things are realized. Your prayer is realized. He said, are realized. What we're developing here is in the knowing that that is when it is realized. That's what's important. This stuff is caught, not taught. Thus understood, autosuggestion is nothing but hypnotism. And I would define it in these simple words, he says, the influence of the imagination. Now, this influence is undeniable. If you persuade yourself that you can do a certain thing, provided this thing be possible, you will do it, however difficult it may be. If, on the contrary, you imagine that you cannot do it, it is impossible for you to do it. And molehills become for you unscalable mountains. Now, we spent weeks with Emil Coué. Every day and every way, I am getting better and better. That's nothing but a slight form of self-hypnosis. I've given you a synopsis, a review of what we learned, the principles that we grasped when we were studying Emil Coué through his papers on self-mastery. And watch and see the thread, the theme, how all of these writers, spiritual teachers, masters are saying the same thing. Leading up to and culminating with the teaching that we're presently working with, Joel S. Goldsmith, The Thunder of Silence. So I am perceiving that the work that we're working from, The Thunder of Silence by Joel Goldsmith, is just a summarization. It is a culmination. This is the point that we've arrived, and we can stop right here with the teaching of Joel Goldsmith, go through that and practice this. But we're going back to visit them to hold their hands, or have them help hold our hands through the practice of what we're seeing here in The Thunder of Silence. So what about Mozumdar? What do you remember from his papers on the master wisdom? Summarized, just as I did for Coué. Let's just look at a page out of his several books of writings that we studied. He said, there must be some deeper meaning in the act of confession, or all the masters and sages of the past would never have recommended it. Now, confession. So you know what confession is, but he's going to tell us what it is. But before I get into it, recall when we get into Taniguchi in just a moment, and Neville and Goldsmith, and they're all also emphasizing the need to do what I'm about to share with you now, coming directly out of Mozumdar. Near you. My Siri on my phone heard me ask for Goldsmith, so I had put it on silent. How it interfered, I don't know. He says, now let us see what the purpose of confession is. The purpose is to unburden one's mind of one's shortcomings and mistakes. This unburdening lightens one's mind and gives one a fresh start from encumbrances. The reason that the majority of the people cannot make headway in life is because they are hampered with the idea of their past shortcomings and mistakes. Their minds not being free, they see the vision of the ghost of their past and cannot realize God's exuberant, free life. Well, what is that but saying the same thing that Joel S. Goldsmith is saying in chapter 6 of The Thunder of Silence, in Unconditioned Mind, and why we took a pause and a stop to go through steps of deconditioning the unconditioned mind. We talked about emotional problems and how they stop answered prayer. We talked about forgiveness. And then we said, when we return to it, we're going to talk about generosity. These are things that are blocking answered prayer. And he says their minds are not being free. They see the vision of the ghost of their past and cannot realize God's exuberant free life. Science tells us that when our body becomes clogged with impurities, it becomes diseased. And the remedy of this disease is the purification of cleansing of the body. Since we know that the cause of all disease is in the mind, does it not stand to reason that the cleansing of the unburdening of the mind is the sure remedy? Sin, he says, means darkness. The moment your mind comes near to God, it becomes lighted. That is what is called the forgiving of sin. With that consciousness, when you open your heart and confess to your God your sins, which means your mistakes, they're forgiven you, and you have a new start, free from all past mistakes and shortcomings. All right, that's a review of Mozambique. Now, then we use the help of Roy Eugene Davis, you remember? And there, what we learned were the 3 roles in prayer. Out of all of the writings that he gave us, I condensed it down to these principles. 3 roles in prayer. And what are they? Suggestion, auto-suggestion, imagination. Again, look at the thread. Look at the common thread that runs through all of their teachings, including Ernest Holmes, including Joel S. Goldsmith. None of them get away from this: suggestion, auto-suggestion, and imagination. Reminding you, our new format is, after we finish about 25, 30 minutes of talk or a lesson, we're not going to take a break. We're going to segue right into healing guided meditation using these 3 principles: suggestion, auto-suggestion, and imagination. And let me prep you also for how Sherry is going to be more helpful in this second part, because I'm going to use her to play a role of that suggestion. I will play the role of the auto-suggestion, and you will play the role of imagination. She's going to start off with the conscious part, which is suggestion. I'm going to follow with the auto-suggestion representing the subconscious mind, and you are going to speak, which means express yourself, speak forth your desire, claim it, make it real, but you will be muted. Nobody will hear what you're saying. Everybody will be muted, and I'm encouraging you to speak out and express and release, and we'll give you time to do that, and those will be the 3 parts every night. And if we do this consistently every Tuesday, we'll get better and better and better to where you can do it on your own, you see, and practice this on your own until you realize your desired answer. So let's see what Roy Eugene Davis reminded us. And I'm going to remind you of how I taught this through going back to John chapter 4. And in John chapter 4, you remember, this is where a father had brought his son to Jesus. He didn't bring his son to Jesus. He had left his son at home because he was expected not to live, but he went for help and found Jesus. And he asked Jesus, if you will come to heal my son. And Jesus told him, go, and your son will be well. And the man returned home. And on his way home, he met the servants who came running to tell him that his son was well. He had been healed. And so the father asked him at what hour was he healed. And so the father was able to reconcile that it's at the moment that Jesus said, go, your son will be well. At that moment, the son rose and he was well. And the servants came running to tell him that. And so when you can look at this as a psychological drama of your own mind, and you can understand the teachings of Jesus, the demonstration here was a demonstration of 3 roles in prayer. That's what we learned. And you see that theme running through all of these teachers' teaching: suggestion, auto-suggestion, and imagination. See, Jesus performed the first role in this miracle. The message here is that it's the same to you. The psychological transformation that took place in the Father's mind, listen to this, the first role, suggestion. The psychological transformation that took place in the Father's mind. Okay, again, when I taught that, what I reminded you is that too often in Bible teachings, The people, the teachers, the preachers, the sage, the scribe, those who know what they know, what they're teaching, only put emphasis on Jesus. And so they build the church on the power of Jesus to heal you. Come on down, let's pray, and Jesus will heal you. But this emphasis is on the man and not Jesus. And so you leave the man out of the scenario, then what have the people learned? The people have not learned about the power of their own mind to heal, and that all healing is self-healing, is what Jesus was teaching. All healing is self-healing. Don't look at me, he says, call it not thou me good. I don't do this. It is the Father within me, he doeth the works. And this is what is demonstrated in this story. The psychological transformation that took place in the Father's mind at the suggestion of Jesus. See, Jesus made the suggestion, but the Father had a role, and that is what we have to begin to practice more and more. The Father had a role to play. So Jesus is waiting for you to play your role. His work is already done. The psychological transformation that took place in the Father's mind at the suggestion of Jesus was the first part of the role in prayer. Now, the second role. The Father performed the second role in this healing. The first role was Jesus, where he made the suggestion. The second role. The Father performed the second role in this healing the moment that he agreed. See, there it is. Go, your son will be well. And so the Father accepted that. He agreed. He accepted it. He believed it. It is done unto you as you believe. The Father believed it. The Father believed it. He agreed with the suggestion of Jesus. And that was the creation of belief, which is mental conception. Ernest Holmes says that conceive means to take into mind. Conceive, he says, suggests the idea of grasping something as a thought. To apprehend by reason of what? Imagination. What did I say the three roles are? Suggestion, autosuggestion, and imagination. Now, Matthew chapter 18 says, where two of you agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them. You cannot heal yourself. No person heals themselves. God does the healing. Look what it says here. If two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, the two, the conscious and the subconscious, the suggestion and the autosuggestion. If two of you shall agree as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done of them, for them, by my Father, which is in heaven. The two in agreement must be the conscious and the subconscious aspects of the one mind. Now there is the third role, suggestion, autosuggestion. What is the third? The subconscious plays the third role. In every healing and or demonstration, which is spiritual transformation, in every healing or demonstration, what is the spiritual, what is the demonstration? The demonstration is the spiritual transformation. That's what autosuggestion is. The subconscious mind plays the third role in every healing and or demonstration, which is the spiritual transformation of the suggestion accepted by the Father into autosuggestion. Now, that has been a review, but trust me, most people don't get it. I don't even have it as deep and clearly as I wanted and needed, but that's the purpose of our Tuesdays. But we can't get it just by talking and giving you a lesson and signing off. That's been bothering me. And I have not wanted to add another night. That's been bothering me. And then I've, from time to time, talked about, working with the selected people who I knew were in urgent situations. That bothered me because that automatically eliminated others. How can I tell who needs to be in the group? So that bothered me. So the answer has arrived. We will just modify our present format and come up with a new format, not new lessons, just a new format. So what did Neville say? So we reviewed Emil Coué and Mozamdar, And who else? Somebody else, but not Neville. Neville, I gave it a topic, imagination. What did we learn from Neville? Which we're going to practice here. Imagination with the three roles, suggestion, auto-suggestion, and imagination. Neville helped us to get into that imagination role. He says, imagination is God in man. See, it is your imagination that doeth the works. The work is done in your imagination. That's your collaboration as a co-creator with God in your imagination. How? Through your feeling. Neville helped us to understand feeling is the secret, the laboratory of your emotions, of your mind. He says everyone is amenable to the same psychological laws which govern the ordinary, look at the word he used, hypnotic subject. He is amenable to control by suggestion. In hypnosis, Neville says, the objective senses are partly or totally suspended. The hypnotic state is simply being unaware objectively. In hypnotism, the conscious mind is put to sleep and the subconscious powers are exposed as to be directly reached by suggestion. That's what happened between Jesus and the Father. No one need be entranced. You know, you don't need to be put in a trance in the ordinary manner to be helped. If the suggestion is given with conviction and confidently accepted by the operator as true, then you have the ideal setting for a successful prayer. That's why we're going to have three roles. When I guided meditation, we're going to have Sherry as the conscious mind speaker suggestion. You're going to have me then follow right behind that with the subconscious operation of the mind's auto-suggestion. And then you speak as the imagination, those three roles. And we're going to do this every week. And then when you sign off, you practice it the same way. And with us doing it with repetition, 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 let me tell you, we're on our way. Taniguchi, the other author, writer, teacher who came in to help us to understand the science of atomic transformation. Atomic transformation. But it was through his teaching that we developed our talk the other night on emotional healing, where you got to let go. Tell me, so you remember the stories, the examples of healing that I shared with you where people walked into the Seishinoi Meditation Society who had no religious background, who were not spiritual, evolved or whatever, and they didn't even know how to meditate or what meditation was, but they had moments to live, in incurable situations, no help from anywhere. There was no help for them, doomed to die. But then they walked into his meditation society. But what they were introduced to and learned quickly was how to meditate. But they followed the instructions of going into the classes and listening. And one of the things that they did is that they did what was instructed them to do. And what was the fundamental instructions? Let go of the past. Forgive, release, let go. Forgive yourself, forgive your family, forgive, forgive, forgive. And then they read the sutras, a Japanese word for scriptures. And then while they read and meditated on that and learned how to sit in the silence and forgave, then miraculously, the healings manifested in days or weeks. So I'm not going to read his story here because of the length of time, but the point is you have it, but I don't have time to read it because I want to go into the reading of our outline and what we're going to do in part 2 of our sessions. But I will tell you, his story here is about the crab and how it is that the crab will shed its hard covering its shell and go in, hide between the rocks, and then the elements in the ocean, it would form a new shell. But he describes what's going on through an atomic transformation. But the same atomic transformation goes on within us, but we have to do what the crab did, hide between the rocks and come from out of the disturbances and build a peaceful mind, because God works in peace. And then the last author here that I'm bringing up through our review and summarization is Joel S. Goldsmith. the thunder of silence is where we are now. And specifically, we left off while returning to chapter 6, the unconditioned mind. It is the state of mind, that's the Garden of Eden state of mind. That is that seek ye first the kingdom of heaven state of mind. That is the secret place of the Most High. His book, bottom line, he's teaching you how to live in a longer and longer sustained period of time in that Edenic state of mind, back to that place where you never left, in that place of peace and joy. And you can't do that if you don't let things go. But what he said, essentially, in summarizing Goldsmith, and then we'll go into our outline for tonight, in terms of the new format of part 2 of the lessons we will experience on Tuesday nights. Goldsmith says, mind is unconditioned. Furthermore, mind forming itself as body is unconditioned. So this body that we are experiencing is as unconditioned as it was before it became a body. But just because it's been influenced and we're experiencing negative experiences living in this body or in the body as sickness and so forth and so on, the body itself is still unconditioned and perfect. And that's what Goldsmith is teaching us. He says, for mind is unconditioned. Furthermore, mind forming itself as body is still unconditioned. And therefore, body can never be well nor sick, tall nor short, thin nor fat. Body is unconditioned as the mind, which is the essence of its form. Mind and body, being unconditioned, are a state of absolute being and perfection. Just as Ernest Holmes says, perfect man, perfect God, perfect being, perfect God, perfect man, perfect being. He says, mind and body being unconditioned are a state of absolute being and perfection until, this is Goldsmith, until the belief of good and evil is accepted into thought. Human experience is in reality the perfect mind. Human experience is in reality the perfect mind, your mind and my mind, which manifests as perfect being and perfect body, but which is influenced by this knowledge of good and evil. This belief in two powers is the essence of what is called the carnal mind. Another term for that is the ego. Another term for that, okay, the world mind. Now, that is what we're learning. That's where we left off with Goldsmith that we're going to get back to. And that is what we're overcoming, the dual nature of mind, duplicity, separation from God, in other words, the belief in separation from God, believing that what you see is real and what you're experiencing is real, and going through life trying to solve what is unreal, heal what is unreal, therefore trying to heal and solve what does not exist. Summarizing that, A Course in Miracles opening of the first page of the book says this, it's a quote, it's like a poem there. It says, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. People open A Course in Miracles and there's just 3 lines there and it covers the whole page. And yet that's what the whole book is based on. But few who take the whole course ever understand those 3 lines, which is on the center of the page, 1 page, 3 lines. And the whole book is a volume. Teaching is based on this concept. And that's what Goldsmith finally is helping us to realize and practice. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So in introducing the new format, because that's what we're doing here tonight. Part 1, remember, when I come on Tuesdays, I'll spend around 30 minutes on a lesson. Then I'm going to go into the guided healing meditation. And it's broken down in 3 parts. Suggestion, auto-suggestion, imagination. Sherry, are you there? Everybody's on mute. Can you hear me, Sherry?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, be prepared in just a minute. What I wanted you, I know I called you, I asked you to do this at the last minute this afternoon before going on. So, just take your time, and what I want you to do is share with the group a little bit more about yourself, because there might be 2 or 3 people you're not familiar with, but mostly everybody else is. And I want you to do that now. Kind of, introduce who you are, what you do, and take a little time to do that. And then when you finish, what I'm going to do is to go into what we discussed earlier in the walk through the outline. So
is anybody else experiencing a lot of distortion? I think everybody has to be muted.
I'm going to mute all. I've muted all. So.
Do you hear it? Do you still hear it?
I hear you, but I don't know. Can I hear anybody else?
Yes, so, it's better. It was better. I'm going to mute myself again.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so
I just
Sherry,
want to
go
make
ahead.
sure I wasn't the cause of the distortion is all. Yes, so thank you, Aman, for inviting me to this opportunity. I am a professor at Long Beach City College, and one of the classes that I teach is called stress management. So I'm taking the opportunity to teach my students about hypnosis, but that hypnosis is something I was introduced to in about 1992. And I've been involved in hypnosis that entire time. So through the teachings of Aman and just my own opening of my imagination, I in fact during this pandemic have created a 5-step program. And I know I wasn't sure if Aman wanted me to talk about that today or not, but that's something that I certainly do want to talk more about. It is a practice-based 5-step program, so it'll be like a 5-week series where there would be things to do in between, and you would be encouraged to really use some creative techniques to make some of this stuff come alive in your own house and in your own experience of the week, to keep it alive every day. So very excited about that. I can share a flyer about that if you want me to, with the 5 steps on it, or we can do it another time. I wasn't sure what your timing for tonight was, Aman.
Oh, send it to me and I'll forward it on to the group.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, and Aman also, I'm sorry, I meant to mention too that Aman has been helpful to me behind the scenes, but also seriously, when I'm talking to my students about hypnosis, and I'm going to be literally doing this coming week for the semester, I'm going to be talking about suggestion, auto-suggestion, and imagination straight out, just like this. I might not be telling the story about Jesus from the Bible, but being introduced to some of these teachers and some of these ways of presenting the material has definitely impacted my teaching at Long Beach City College, and Aman has been a part of my teaching at Long Beach City College in more than one way over the past 17 years or so.
Okay, thank you. Now, what I'm going to do here, remember that I said to you that on Tuesdays, right after my talk, we're going to go into this outline that's following. I've sent it to you already by email. You can, and there will be slight changes, just slight edits as we go forward. The idea here is to be consistent so that you can get it into your memory, so that our practice will be effective. So it will go like this. There's about 1.5 page here where Sherry will lead in, and then you'll see where I follow. But we're not going to actually do the practice where you have the opportunity to do your participation. I'm sharing this with you so that you can be prepared to practice your role, and I will point it out when we get to that. Sherry, just go ahead for the opening. So after the Tuesday talk, then we'll not have an interruption. We'll go directly into this part. until we conclude, Sherry. Uh-oh, did I do something?
Hello, yes, here I am.
Oh, okay.
I'm just concerned about feedback. I want to make sure that I don't have that. Okay. In this guided healing meditation, you will experience the 3 roles in healing and demonstration: suggestion, autosuggestion, imagination. It's very important that everyone mute yourself, please. You are now at rest in a comfortable position for meditation. You have planned this special time with the Holy Spirit so that there will be no interruptions or distractions. In a moment, Aman will speak suggestions into your subconscious mind. Your receptive subconscious mind, by agreement, will transform these words into auto-suggestion, becoming God's power of your imagination. Imagine that God is now using Aman's voice as his own voice, speaking into your soul God's words of power, wisdom, and truth. Before you is your cup of ice. In your imagination, this ice is but a symbol of your problem. Soon, this ice will be melted away, dissolved, disappeared, gone. This disappearing will happen because the conditions that support the form of the ice will change. Likewise, as your subconscious mind receives God's words spoken by Aman, your acceptance and agreement transforms into auto-suggestion, becoming God's power, causing all negativity to spiritually melt away, dissolve, and disappear like the ice in your cup. You shall know the truth, and this truth will make you free. As the Holy Spirit now speaks through Aman into your receptive subconscious mind, you will accept and agree, and the power of autosuggestion itself will do the rest of the work in melting away the belief in what is not real in your life.
Now, when we practice, Sherry is going to share the sound of the bowls, but we won't do it tonight because of the length of the talk. And I'm going to explain what my role and your role will be as the group here. So I will speak and then you will follow me. And I will lead you into a breathing exercise, but I won't do it tonight. The purpose of this healing meditation, and this is the going into the auto-suggestion part. The purpose of this healing meditation is to cause the belief in every problem in your mind to dissolve, disappear, evaporate. So remember here that why are we doing this? The sickness is not real. The problem is not real. But what is real? What is real is, where the problem, I should say, is your belief that the problem is real. So in our practice, what we're doing is healing belief. It is done unto you as you believe. And so I will go ahead and speak more words in that direction. But then I will say, in just a moment, I will be silent. Then you will speak. So what you're doing here, I've sent you the outline. Be prepared to practice speaking out your answer. Practice speaking out your prayer. Practice praying, and then everybody will be muted. And at this part, there will be silence, but you speak and nobody will be hearing you speak. And as you speak, you imagine that the autosuggestion has already taken place, from which the words that Sherry has spoken. And in that silence, it is the transformation that heals while you are speaking. And now your voice is the subconscious part of the one mind, agreeing, receiving, and accepting the truth about your life that already has been spoken, and you're speaking your words out loud. And just, all right. And then when you finish that, then there will be the bold sounds. And then I will just simply close it out by exercise of inhaling and exhaling. And then the last part will be you again, where you express words of thanksgiving and gratitude of which you've already received, praying God for your answer, and we will say, and so it is. Now, that process will be taking place: suggestion, auto-suggestion, and imagination. Because when you are praying, when you are in your imagination, making it feel real, living in the end of the answer fulfilled, it is already done. So sounds like a lot, but what we'll do here is we'll make it easy and simple as we practice every Tuesday night. But the lecture and the lesson won't change. I'll continue having a topic and give you a complete lesson, but instead of it being 40 and 45 minutes, it will be about 30 minutes. And then we're going to get our guided meditation down to about 15 minutes with practice. What do you think about that? So unmute yourselves and we'll talk about it here.
I think it's a great idea.
I'm in
Daphne.
agreement.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a great idea, and I already started conceptualizing the situation, the experience.
And Carolyn, you were saying? Carolyn.
This is Darlene, and I
Darlene,
think it's fabulous. I've sort of been doing something similar on my own anyway, so I know this is a perfect thing now for me.
good.
Now I want to say that I am just very excited about it. As a matter of fact, when I was in mute, it just gave me all this creative power, and I just started painting. I'm finished this piece tonight. I want to thank you.
Oh, hey, Rodney, I didn't see you in the beginning of the call. Welcome.
But Sherry, I want to tell you how good you were at this. I mean, I felt like I was in an office with a hypnotist that was taking me somewhere that I needed to go.
Well, there you go. You have a good imagination, because that's pretty much what was happening.
That's what happens when you surrender.
And Daphne, where are you? Open up your face.
My voice
No.
is for tonight.
I'm trying to hear the other people's response here.
Okay.
You feel that this is going to be helpful to you? What are your thoughts about it?
Yes.
Reverend Lamont, this
Yeah.
is Michelle. I think it's
Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
Say that
I
again.
just think it's awesome. I feel like it's like going to a healing clinic every Tuesday.
Yes, yes,
And Reverend Amon, this is Reverend Helen. I like the idea.
yeah, great,
I'm open and receptive to it.
yes. See, with practice, we just don't have enough opportunity to practice. We hear a lesson, but what about the practice part? I just didn't want to dedicate a separate night to it. But you know, and we're going to keep it simple, and then we're going to make it repetitive, and that's where the power is in the repetition of it, and the achievement or the goal is self-hypnosis.
Yes.
Is self-hypnosis. And then when you practice this, and then sometimes we can spin off and do another night or do another time spontaneously. But the point is every Tuesday night, you know, you're training your mind to get into that track, to get into that groove. And you can remember because we're not changing, it's consistent. It's a simple template that we're going to repeat every Tuesday.
Should we
Okay.
have ice when we do it? A cup of ice?
Yes, but the idea here is not only use your ice on Tuesdays, use your ice Tuesday to Tuesday, because that ice symbolizes your belief, you know, and what you're healing, you're not healing this. And it takes your mind off of what you think needs to be healed, and you stop praying for that, and you stop praying for the absence of your, praying for something is praying for the absence of it. You know, you already have it. And that ice is melting is the destruction of the belief that you don't have it. So the idea here is to keep that cup of ice 24 hours. You know, have it by put it by your bed before you fall asleep. When you wake up in the morning, it's dissolved. Then you say, "Hallelujah! The problem is gone. Thank you, Jesus."
Amen. I receive that.
And then at your workstation, you know, you can have a drink of water or a drink of whatever it is, but also have your cup of ice. And that ice symbolizes that Isaiah 26 and 23, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee.
No.
So the ice symbolizes that you're keeping your mind on God, on the power of God that is destroying the belief.
Woo!
Just as the ice is melting away, the mass is melting away. The blockage that's stopping your financial situation or whatever it is melting away.
Yes.
That's what the ice is for.
Oh,
Yes.
this is Carolyn. It seems like my body knew that this was coming because my pressure went up. I was disturbed by something that happened, and I had been working on my blood pressure. And I said, wow, right on time. It's like I couldn't have planned it any better. And I said, whoa, because I had been working on it myself. I said, my pressure is normal, you know, went to sleep with that. But this meditation was beautiful. It hit the point. It hit the target where it needed to be hit.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, I'm excited about this. And yeah, I'm excited.
Yes, and I'm excited for the opportunity also. I can just say that even just practicing the script and doing my own practice at home, I have felt just a phenomenal shift. I think there's a lot of power in this method that we're about ready to practice every week.
Okay.
It was very powerful to hear you speak it, Sherry. Very powerful, very soothing.
Wonderful. I'm so glad.